Showtime in 5.
So, when you introduce Jason, remember his last name is Marker. It's
Jason
not Maker.
Jason Maker, got it.
Marker.
10. Wow.
It's Marker. It's his name. You have
15.
right here. His name is Marker, like a Sharpie.
14.
Not like the makerspace, like i3. It's. Do you do
Natural
this on
20.
the radio?
What? Yeah, Maker, I got it. Cool.
It's
Let's go.
Marker.
We got it, Maker. Oh, that is a natural 20!
If you say Maker during the show, you're gonna look like an idiot.
I got it, Maker. Let's go.
People of Earth.
The name's Nukem, Duke Nukem.
This is Happy Tea Cat.
This is Albert Wesker.
I'm Hatchworth from Steam Powered Giraffe.
You're listening to The Rock Show on VoxVii.com.
Listen to Conrad and Lucas.
Take Geek Culture off the shelf and show it to you.
The spine from Steam Powered Giraffe says so.
Don't change the channel. 'Cause I know where to find it, Bob.
Hail to the king, baby.
Sorry, I have a lightsaber, so I'm distracted. Hi! I'm Conrad.
I'm Lucas.
And you're watching Season 3, Episode 9 of The Rack Show, hopefully on VoxVii's YouTube channel, or VoxVii.com, or TheRackShow.com.
We're still here, still square.
We sure are. Actually, speaking about here, we were at I3 Detroit, the hackerspace, really awesome.
Yeah, well, we've been doing the last few episodes here.
I know, I'm just giving everyone, we're still here.
Until we move into the new place, hopefully
Super
soon.
secret place.
Super secret place.
We'll let you guys know what happens.
What'd you do?
I3Detroit.com, or?
Yeah, i3detroit.com.
Okay,
Let's
good.
Pop that up here.
Yep. He's still doing that. I was yelled at to stop that, and then he started doing that on purpose. I don't know why. Also, Instagram, Twitter, The Rack Show, all one word. Which, as well, you can see all of our cool things we got going on. Some cool things I got going on. Personally, I found a place in Port Huron. It's about 1.5 miles away from the Blue Water Bridge, which means it's about 2.5 miles away from my work. I'm very excited to move up there. And after Memorial Day, I think I'll be fully moved in, and this is going with me, because I can't be somewhere without a lightsaber. It's important. And this will be pertinent later on in the show.
Yeah, pertinent.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Not much. Packing.
Yeah.
I'll be moving soon into an undisclosed place. We'll talk about probably in a future episode.
So, lots of moves happening. Speaking about moving, somebody is not moving, but is coming back to the area.
So if you watched last season's generation, the next generation, which is our where we focus on children and what they're doing, the amazing things that they're doing.
Upcoming hobbyist, geeks, nerds, awesome people.
Amanda Lynn Carlson is going to be joining us this afternoon after the show.
She's a big darn deal.
Yeah, she's an actress. You know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to run home and get her movies, and we'll play them in the background while she's hanging out with us.
Well, is she the type of person that would want that to happen?
No.
You're just going to embarrass her?
Yeah.
Of course you are. It's like Lucas's unofficial daughter. He has to do this stuff. He's like,
so
look at what she did.
TV.
Look at how little she used to be.
I talked to Amy about this. She's like, "That's mean." I'm like, "I know, right?"
That is mean.
So,
but it's also funny. But Madeline Carlson is awesome. She's what's the most recent project that she's been in? Do you know? It was with Dean Cain, right?
No.
But she has worked with Dean Cain.
Yeah, she's done 2 movies with Dean Cain.
Yeah.
And then I think it's called The Sparrows, but I don't know if it's out.
Okay.
I think it's called The Sparrows. It's like a
possibly
TV
coming
show, family movie kind of thing. I don't know. But you can always check her out at MadeleineCarlson.com, I believe.
Yep. If we can possibly help it, we'll see if we can't get her on an episode of either the Vox or the Rack Show or something. But we'll get her in front of the camera if we can possibly do that. If her schedule permits, because she is a pretty big deal, even though she's only 15.
Yeah, she'll be 16 this summer.
16, yeah.
It'll be cool.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. You want to talk about Houston coming back to town or no?
Yeah, she comes back. Houston comes back this week. I'm pretty excited.
I'm excited. What do you want to call her? His Houston, I guess. We don't really know.
It's Houston. I'm just going to say it's Houston.
If you watched, I believe it's the second episode of the Vox. It was basically, was it third?
Second?
I think it was second,
yeah, where we talk about dating?
Yeah, and basically it was like Lucas in love. We had to give him a bunch of advice.
Before I went on a date with Houston.
Because then
I went on a date with Houston.
It was adorable.
And then she watched that episode before our second date, and then like she knew everything.
Because he didn't think that she was going to do it. He was like, oh, she doesn't care enough to check. Nope, she does her research.
So she watched the episode and knew exactly what I was going to do on our second date. So that was fun. So Houston comes back. I'm excited. That's about it. it's been a busy / uneventful week. So
Kind of, yeah. Like, it's interesting to us. We don't know if you guys care. We're just letting you know. Something else that's really interesting, because I have a lightsaber and because I'm wearing a Sith Empire shirt, is that we have Jason Maker here.
good segue.
Marker. Well, and you know what? I just was like, oh, I'm so glad that I can actually say an awesome name easily. And then I messed it up. Anyway, Jason Marker. We're going to stop talking about my mistakes. Hello, sir. How are you?
How's it going, fellas?
It's going really well. We met you when we were off season, in between season 2 and 3.
Yeah.
We were gaming. I think we were actually playing Pathfinder. We met you with Lee Gaddis, I believe. You came in with him.
Yeah.
Which we had on the show earlier this season.
We did. And we actually watched his tabletopper in action.
Yeah.
It's pretty neat. You are an RPG developer writer.
Yes.
And which was really awesome, because you actually didn't even mean to be an RPG in the industry. It just kind of happened, right?
Yeah, I got into it by accident. I was actually I had a very wandering educational experience out of high school, and eventually I got a degree. I was trained as a chef, and I went to a culinary school in Pittsburgh.
Lucas cooks too.
And of course, because I can't do one thing at a time, I was taking classes. My wife and I had moved to St. Louis. I was taking classes in creative writing and photography. And I ended up with a culinary degree in advertising. I was an advertising photographer for 8 or 10 years.
Oh, cool.
But while I was in St. Louis, I was taking classes at the community college at Forest Park in St. Louis. And I was taking a creative writing class, and the final for that class was to write a short story and submit it for publication. Didn't have to be published, just had to do it.
You just go through the steps.
Yeah, you had to write the story, cut it, edit it, and then send it in for publication. And I was a big Rifts player at the time, and
which is a role-playing system.
Rifts, it's a role-playing game, post-apocalyptic, sort of kitchen sink kind of game.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Giant robots and monsters and dragons and magic and all.
Yeah, the cool stuff.
And it's stuff that everybody likes. And I wrote this super short piece of short fiction based on an illustration by an artist named Ramon Perez, and it got published in the Palladium does a quarterly fan magazine called The Rifter.
Okay.
And it got published in Rifter number 8, which was a Halloween episode, sort of a horror story. And that's how I got into it. It was completely by accident.
And this wasn't a system attached to it. This wasn't a game. It was just a short story set in this...
In Rifts.
Okay.
And then over the next few years, as I was working in advertising, as a side thing, I was writing short stories. I was writing game settings. I was doing that stuff, and submitting it for publication in the Rifter. Then in, I want to say 07 or 08, the photography business, the advertising business in Detroit changed a lot. And what I did was no longer in demand, basically because I was not drawing cars in Maya. I was taking pictures of cars, and that was just out. So I transitioned from advertising to writing, and I was on staff at Palladium for 2 years, and then went full-time freelance in 09. I've been doing that since then.
And you've been surviving. Now, you, I see Robotech RPG on my little sheet here. Tell us more about you being a co-author in that, or?
When I was at Palladium, we didn't really have titles. We all just sort of worked on this big pool of projects.
Okay.
I was sort of in charge of bringing the Robotech RPG back to market.
Okay.
So, Palladium had that license in the 80s. They dropped it because the IP went fallow, essentially. Nobody was doing anything with it. And then Shadow Chronicles came out. Harmony Gold dropped Shadow Chronicles, which was sort of a replacement for Sentinels, which was supposed to be between the Macross part and the Southern Cross part. And I got brought in on that. I helped bring that book to market, and then I sort of ran with it, and I did the Macross book. I did the Southern Cross book. And then I wrote another book that never got published because I finished it and then I left the company. So
okay, cool. And that was you were writing for them. That wasn't gaming, or were you reciting the background for that? Or
no, that was we used the Palladium system. It's like an old school sort of D20 based system with skills.
Yeah.
And so basically those rules are made, and what I had to do was I had to take, all the, in Macross they have the Valkyries, which are the F-14s that turn into giant robots, right? So I got to look at the Valkyrie, and I got to talk about the history of the Valkyrie and the development of the Valkyrie and why they use it and how they use it, and then fit the stat those out in the rule set. So talk about how tough the Valkyrie is, how fast it is, and what it can do within the game system. So make the Valkyrie work within the rules of the game system.
Yeah, and that's kind of your jam. I think is that your exact words. Your jam is looking into. I think you said because we'll go right into Fantasy Flight since we're talking about it. Yeah, and that's what you do now with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been freelancing for Fantasy Flight since 2009, and it's funny. My work on Robotech got me in at Fantasy Flight because I went freelance in 2009 and I started just sending my resume out, and I just got a bunch of those boilerplate, don't call us, we'll call you, thanks for your interest,
We'll have you on file.
Yeah, we'll put you on file. Yep. And I get an email back from Fantasy Flight, thanks for your interest in working for Fantasy Flight. About 10 minutes later, I get another email back from the same dude, and it's like his name was Ross Watson. He's like, oh my god, are you Jason Marker, who worked on Robotech? Oh my god, I'm your biggest fan. And he was like freaking out, and I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And that's how I got my job in Fantasy Flight. Because Ross really liked my stuff on Robotech, and he's a huge Robotech nerd, and I'm a huge Robotech nerd, so that was sort of my in. Mm-hmm. And my first gig for Fantasy Flight was the Road Trader RPG, which is set in Warhammer 40k.
Okay.
And I got onto that because I'm a huge naval history nerd and a huge Age of Sail fan. And I don't know if you're familiar with the Patrick O'Brien Master and Commander books. They made a Master and Commander movie a few years ago with Russell Crowe as Captain Aubrey.
Okay. Really long. I know of it. Don't know anything about the
books.
There's
21 books in that series.
Really?
And I have them all on audiobook, and I've gone through them 5 times already.
No way.
And I'm a huge Age of Sail nerd. I'm a huge sailing ship nerd. And Road Trader is the Age of Sail in space with las cannons. And so Ross, they got wind of the fact that I was big into that, and I had a lot of background in that and Navy stuff, and they're like, oh, you want to do some Road Trader? It's pirates and sailing spaceships, giant space-going cathedrals, and I'm like, I'm in. Let's do it. Let's talk about spaceships.
Now, is that a miniatures game, or is that
it's a role-playing game?
Okay,
yeah, it was a 40k role-playing game.
That sounds like it'd be fun.
It's rad. They had 5 separate lines for the 40k games. So they had Road Trader, which is pirates, or Deathwatch, which is Space Marines, Only War, which is the Army, which is Imperial Guard, and that was sort of my favorite thing. I love the Army and the Imperial Guard. Black Crusade, which is the bad guys, so it's a bad guy RPG. And
nice.
then Dark Heresy, which is basically where you're playing an agent of the Spanish Inquisition in space with lasers.
So Rogue Trade is the
Spanish space
pirates, right?
Rogue Trader is pirates.
I think I would be into that.
And it's freebooters and privateers, and basically
what's a freebooter?
A pirate.
Oh, okay.
It's a freelance cargo hauler, a privateer. You have a letter of marque from the Imperium, and you're supposed to wage war on the Xeno scum and carry a bunch of treasure. And
like a privateer.
Yeah, okay. Privateer. Yeah, you get a letter of marque from the Inquisition, and you go for it. And your ship is a giant space-going cathedral.
What's a space-going cathedral?
You know what a cathedral is?
Yeah,
you know what the word space-going means.
So it's a big church in space.
Big old space church.
The ships in 40k are all the smallest one is 1.5 kilometers long.
No way.
They're all just ridiculously massive, and they are huge, very gothic. They look like cathedrals in space, right?
Really?
And they're ridiculous. They're so awesome. And the biggest ones, I rode a ship that was 18 or 19 kilometers long. It was one of the biggest ships that the Imperial Navy used. Yeah, so it's the scale of 40k is just
massive. How does that work? Well, I guess it's not a miniatures game; it's a role playing game. So
there is a miniatures space battle game for 40k, and it came out years ago. I don't think it's supported anymore. Called Battlefleet Gothic, and I loved Battlefleet Gothic. I never owned any of the ships. My friends had them because I'm a terrible painter, and but I would always go and play with my friends Battlefleet Gothic ships, and that's a fun game.
We might have to try that space game.
Yeah,
it's old school. I don't think they don't make it anymore, so you gotta really dig it up.
Okay. We know the guys at Palladium.
Yeah, but I'll say we have we
met them at
so
we met them at they were over at PyroCon. Right?
Corey's just drinking his vitamin water. He has no idea what Lucas's train of thought is because he doesn't speak Lucas as much as I do.
We just said Corey's name, so I think we can check that off the list.
Now, I want to get into the Star Wars RPG stuff that you do, because that's why I brought this, that's why I'm wearing this, that's what we were geeking out about right before the cameras came on.
We did the interview before the interview.
We kind of did. We're like, the cameras aren't on, this would be great stuff. And it's like, we can't do it, unfortunately. But Starship vehicle design, rule design person, basically what you do is somebody mentions a ship by name. Mention a random ship by name. I don't know.
The fire spray.
Okay, the fire spray.
Which is the
fire spray.
is the slave, right?
The slave Boba Fett ship Slave 1 was a fire spray.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a fire spray. So say maybe it wasn't attached to Boba Fett at all. Maybe it was just a ship that somebody mentioned offhandedly in a book.
Well, how about we were looking earlier, the cloak-shaped fighter.
Okay, cool. So we'll use that one. And there's all it says in the books is that this was a ship that was someplace, it was docked somewhere that Han Solo was walking by it. That's it. And then the Fantasy Flight people come to Jason and they're like, hey, give us some rules in the ship. Tell us why it's a ship. Tell us what it was used for. Make it work inside the game. And that's what you do.
That's what I do. Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Yeah, so fantasy, so my editors will give me a list of ships, and they'll be like, we need like the cloak shape, and I had never heard of it. It's something from the EU. It's these little modular fighters.
Real fast, explain EU.
Sorry, it's the extended universe, which is after Disney bought the rights to Star Wars or whatever a few months ago. They deprecated the EU so that some parts of the EU were considered canon. There were all these different levels of canon within Star Wars, and now it's like. EU is now called Legends, and nobody talks about it. But Fantasy Flight, we pull from that all the time.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of the ships and a lot of the gear that I pull are, like the corporation names and everything. I have to pull from the EU to use in our projects. Should I get the books?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He brought a bunch of show and tell stuff for us, which we were looking at right before the cameras came on too. And Lucas almost didn't give it back.
So I love the big thick books. I'm just like,
these books are something else. These are like coffee table books. Yeah. So there's three games in the Fantasy Flight Star Wars line. There's Edge of the Empire. That was the first one. That's Han and Chewie, the role playing game. That's like all in the Outer Rim. It's all criminals and smugglers and farmers and whatever. And
you can be a farmer.
You can be a colonist. So yeah.
Totally want to be a farmer.
Age of Rebellion is all the army stuff, and then the third game that's coming out, it's been in beta. Beta's continued. It should drop sometime this year, pretty soon. Is Force and Destiny, which is the Jedi game. And then what's cool about these games is they're all 100% compatible. There's no power creep within these games. The Jedi game is kind of like. If you want to play Force and Destiny, you kind of have to play all Jedi, because the Jedi are kind of overpowered space wizards with laser swords, right?
You and I both also talked about what we feel about Jedi. But anyway,
like you can take a character that you roll up an Edge of the Empire.
My farmer.
Your farmer, for example, your colonist who's a farm boy, right? You can take that guy and you can dump a bunch of XP into him, and you can take that character and move it into this game, into Age of Empire.
But in his heart,
Age of Rebellion.
In his heart, he's still a farmer.
And then you can buy another XP chart to make him a fighter pilot in this game. And if you had thought about it when you made him in that game, you maybe bought a secondary XP chart that made him a Force sensitive, and then you could take him into Force and Destiny and make him a Jedi, and that's Luke Skywalker, right? So
basically, Luke Skywalker.
So basically, the way
hydrogen farmer. Well, no, what is
the
it?
water?
Water farmer. Yeah.
So basically, the way these games work, these games chart Skywalker's character arc. Right, from farm boy to fighter pilot to Jedi. And I wish I had.
So,
Force of Destiny, but I don't
do
have it
you
'cause it's not out
feel
yet.
that they'll make a fourth book with the new movies?
I am not at liberty to discuss anything that's not out yet.
Oh,
I'm just not. I just can't.
Maybe.
I can't.
Doesn't that sound just like Michael Orlando talking about the
Michael
new
Orlando in here?
Right
He
on.
worked on the second.
He's a special
episode
effects
2.
guy.
Yeah, he's a special effects guy. And he was. I was like, oh, can you tell us more? And he was like, I can't.
Yeah, I can't talk about anything that isn't published yet. So.
That's so cool that there might be more stuff. Hey, look, here's your name under writing in additional development, Jason Marker.
That's me.
Big damn deal. Look at him. He's
cool.
right up near the top. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I really want to play this.
Right.
It's such a rad system. I really like it.
Yes, please explain to us more about the system, because I was looking at these dice that you have, and there's a little picture, and maybe we'll put up an actual picture of it. But these dice are all weird, and there are no numbers.
There are no numbers.
Numbers.
They're all symbols that you have to.
Did you just break the book?
No, it's
That's a.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah, no.
Oh my god, I
No.
thought you broke his book. I was like, we can't have nice things or guests because of you now.
No, don't worry about it, because
Jomer's
look
not
how beat
here.
up that book is. It's my work. It's my work copy,
Yeah.
so it's all torn up.
Jomar's not here.
Sorry.
No, I saw the staples on the outside. I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, no, that was a little like a quick start guide to help you. Read this first. It says right on the cover.
Hey, Will, you should GM
Read this first. Yeah.
You should GM this.
Lucas's cousin Will has been, one of our editors, has been talking about how he's been wanting to GM a game for us.
He's a super creative, so it'll be cool.
For the past 4 weeks, has been talking about this, so maybe we'll use this.
It's a really fun game. It's a really easy system to pick up.
Yes, system. Back to this. Because there's no numbers on these dice. I've never seen a game like this.
Yeah, the dice are all have different symbols on them that all mean different things. Of course. So basically, you build a dice pool for whatever you want to do, and within your dice pool are your positive dice, which are your skill dice and everything.
Okay.
And then you get boost dice and
things that give you like bonuses.
Yeah, you get bonus dice, and then you have difficulty dice, and then you have like
challenges.
Dice that make things more challenging, and sometimes maybe you'll have a force die in there if you're dealing with force powers or whatever, and then you just
chuck it.
You chuck your dice out, and as long as you get one success, whatever you do succeeds. And you have to look out and different symbols. Cross out other symbols,
But the rest of the dice, and you were talking about this, what they do is they kind of create the scenario of what you're trying to do.
There's no wasted rolls
Yes.
in this system. So whenever something happens, even if what you're trying to do fails, something's going to happen on that roll, and it can be you can fail a roll and something good can come out of it, or you can succeed in what you're trying to do and something bad can come out of it. And like I was talking to you about earlier, like my favorite example of that is you're trying to get a locked door open in a starship corridor, and there are dudes chasing you, right? And if they catch you, they're going to kill all of you. So you got to get through this door, and you roll your dice pool to hack this door open, and it succeeds, but you generate threat on that roll.
With the rolls.
And that means something bad happened. So the way what I would do in that situation was you get the door open, but it only opens this far, and then there are dudes on the other side with rifles. And
all that's dictated by the die.
And that's all dictated by, what it is, you look at the die and you're like, well, I have a success, and then I have a couple of threat, and then, you look at it like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to do with this threat? And so say I have 2 threat, my one threat is the door only opens this far, and maybe the droid can squeeze through there. And well, now you're stuck, right? And then the other threat, there's, more shipboard security coming down that corridor, and they see you. And now what are you going to do, And so there's, like I said, there's no wasted rolls.
Which a wasted roll, and I have my D20. I'm gonna use as an example. So I'm trying to hit a guy with a sword, and I roll, and I get a 10.
But there's no numbers, right?
But this is an example of wasted dice. See, maybe with all my modification stuff, I only get up to 15, which means I miss, and that's all that happens.
Yeah,
wasted roll.
So that's like D&D, right?
Yes.
When D&D is very abstract like that, where you just roll your die. If you miss, you just miss the guy, and nothing else happens.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, in this system, something else is always going to happen. And
I want to try this.
One of the fun things about that is you make it collaborative, so everybody at the table is working together. And so a lot of times, especially with the people I play with, they're harder on each other than I could ever be. Like they think
as a game master.
As a game master, if I'm telling the story, I'm going to try to keep the story going along. If I give them the opportunity to use threat, they're just like, the whole planet blows up, and a black hole opens, and everybody gets sucked. I'm like,
that sounds like Will.
I'm like, you guys, come on. It's only 3 threat. You can't open a black hole in space with only 3 threat. You need more.
Okay, how much threat would you need to create like a catastrophic event?
A lot.
Like more than is possible?
Yeah, more than, But, on the opposite side of that coin is, the bonuses that you get from, if you can fail a roll and you have something good happen. It's the same kind of thing. Like, if you have, there's other things you can do with the bonuses where you can give them to other players, and there's also another mechanic that's in the game are your destiny points. And you have a pool of destiny points, and they're light side and dark side.
Okay.
And the game master uses all the dark side destiny points, the ones that are flipped to the dark side, and the players use all the light side ones. And whenever the players use a destiny point, and they can use a destiny point for whatever they want, they flip it over to the dark side, and that's one that I get to use.
It doesn't work the opposite way. So
but every time I use one,
you have to give it back.
I give it back.
So it's a pool for everybody.
That is so cool.
Yeah, it's a neat game, man. It's super. It's super quick to pick up on, and it's super versatile, and it's really cinematic, and it really allows you to tell these like starfighters boiling out of the side of a star destroyer.
As a character, I can buy a ship then.
Yeah.
And I can fly that ship around.
You fly a ship around. Yeah.
Will's be like, I just bought a Falcon, and now I'm.
It's awesome. Yeah, there's all kinds of
go this way.
I mean, because that's what I do. Ships and guns and gear and stuff like that. If you've got the money, You can buy starships. You can buy, up to, and some ships are restricted. Military grade ships are restricted. Like you're not just going to go out and buy a CR-90, which is the Corellian Corvette. That's the blockade runner you see at the beginning of New Hope.
The triangle?
No, that's a Star Destroyer.
Oh, that's a Star Destroyer.
We're not going to buy one of those
The little hammerhead ship that the Star Destroyer is chasing.
Oh,
the
yeah,
ship that Princess Leia's on. That's
Yes.
a CR-90 Corvette. You're not just going to go out and buy one of those. They're expensive and they're military restricted. So if you have military clearance, you can buy one.
Can we have Will steal it?
Maybe. I mean, that's the thing. There's always a way to do it. I played in an online, like a play-by-post game, where we were all fighter pilots, and one of our first missions was scuttling a Super Star Destroyer.
What's scuttling mean?
Destroying it. It was after a battle at Endor, and she was in a dry dock at Kuat Drive Yards.
So they use a lot of naval terms then.
Yeah. And because I've been on all three of these, and I have sort of injected a lot of these naval terms. So when we talk about the firing arcs on a ship, you have forward, aft, port, starboard.
I'm learning all this. I started playing. I don't know if you've ever played it, but there's a game that came out free on Xbox called Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
Black Flag, yeah.
And I'm starting to get interested in the ship sizes and what they mean and the arcs.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, you have to go. You can only fire out this side. It's
like
craziness.
Pick up Sid Meier's Pirates.
I have it. That's the
That's
first
a
originally.
great game.
That's really good.
And then have you seen what is it called? Naval Warfare, I think. It's by the people that did World of Tanks.
No. Is it good?
It's awesome.
Where at?
It's on. It's not out yet. They had an alpha. They had an open alpha, or I'm sorry, open beta testing, and then they closed it, and it's about ready to come out. And it's an open world Age of Sail simulator.
No way.
It's ridiculous. It's so awesome, and it's just like
I hope it's free like World of Tanks, but nice.
It's not free.
No.
I think it's gonna be like $40.
That's not bad.
But it's like online, online open world, so you can just be sailing along, and there's some dudes over there, and you want to take their stuff. You just steer your ship over there.
I'm getting used to the names. Like, is it schooner?
A schooner is a type of hull. A schooner is a type of ship.
Okay, and it's a small type of ship.
It's a smaller ship, yeah, small and fast.
Okay, so I'm learning these words.
Yeah.
I had a roommate that actually designed ships. That's what he did.
Oh, he's a naval architect.
Yes.
Right on.
And I ended up renting out his room because he went out to Texas.
I have a
when
friend-
I was in Washington D.C. and he left all his books there. Mm-hmm. So when I was living in his room, I just read all his
naval
books.
architecture is rad.
Insane.
I have a friend who's a naval architect, and he designs wave generators.
Really?
Yeah, like power generators, tidal.
It's
power
so
generators and
interesting.
stuff. Yeah.
The whole Navy aspect, the whole boats and stuff.
Yeah, and that, like I said earlier, that's my jam. I'm huge into naval technology and naval history and sailing history. I'm listening to a great podcast right now that's like not prehistoric, but like ancient sailing, like the origins of sailing, and it's stuff like the Phoenicians and the Egyptians and the
What's it called? So let's plug it here. Do you know?
Yeah, plug.
I forget. Sorry, I'm terrible at this.
It's fine. No, not plug.
No plug.
Sorry.
So you're into all this history as well behind it. How much of that gets applied to the games and the background you put? Like, is there anything that maybe mirrors what is in our history compared to what you're putting into the Star Wars universe?
I mean, there's a lot of things
like how much
that
you
I
draw
can
upon,
get in.
basically.
I draw on, especially when I'm writing about the Imperial Navy in Star Wars. I draw a lot on, modern navies, and a lot of the ship classes, the sort of the general classes. So we've got corvettes, we've got dreadnoughts, we've got battleships, we've got frigates and stuff like that. So I draw a lot on that, and I talk about battle groups, and carrier battle groups, and how starfighters are used in combat and stuff like that. Star Wars is a fantasy game, so I'm not going to go hard sci-fi on it.
Yeah,
but I like to inject that feel, just to make, especially the Imperial Navy, feel like an actual, like this is an actual armed force. These guys are serious business.
I think it's cool. Like I said, I'm getting really into it.
Mm-hmm.
The ships are just ginormous, though.
In Star Wars, yeah, the bigger ships are, like Executor. That was Executor was the Super Star Destroyer that you see in Return of the Jedi. Yeah, she was Darth Vader's ship. I mean, they argue about how big she was, but depending on your source, she's anywhere from 10 to 17 kilometers long.
Okay.
And she's got like 140,000 crew. She's just massive, and they built those. That's part of the Tarkin Doctrine. You remember, Grand Moff Tarkin was, from New Hope. The Tarkin Doctrine was build everything as big as possible and scare the crap out of everybody, and we're gonna make all these systems fall in line through fear. And that's why the stormtroopers are faceless, and that's why the ships are so big.
Really?
And that's why they built the Death Star with a giant laser that'd blow up planets. Because you blow up one planet, and nobody else is going to want the Death Star to come into their system, so they're going to do what you say. That was the Tarkin doctrine.
A little psychology put into that.
Scare the crap out of everybody, and they'll fall in line. And it didn't really work, but...
I'm sitting here and I'm actually on I'm on Wikipedia looking up random starships to see if I can just throw one at you and see what stuff you can throw at me. Like
I've probably statted it out already.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, fine. I'll pick the one that I was just looking at. Do you know what the Light Runner is? It belonged to Tash and Zach
What's the
Aranda.
What class of ship is it?
Doesn't say. It just says a starship. So that's a bad example. Sorry.
Because they'll do that. They'll say,
a starship, and that's all they'll talk
Or they'll
about,
say
right?
just the name of the ship and not what kind of ship she is. Mm-hmm. And then I'll go digging for it, and she's an already established.
So there's a lot of research you have to do.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
so you have to go through all the books.
I use Wikipedia. I use the official Star Wars website. And then there's like I said, I pulled stuff from Legends. Like a lot of the starships, like the bigger Imperial ships, I pulled from Legends, like the Dreadnoughts and stuff like that.
Steve Zahn is one of the writers, right? Timothy Zahn. Did we have him on one of the episodes last year? Geek fan?
We wanted to.
I
think they just fell through the glass.
He's a busy man.
Yeah, he was at one of the conventions and we had just missed him.
Right.
But
okay, what about the Leia class courier?
I've never even heard of that.
Really? What about this thing?
Never even heard of
What about this thing?
It's a Hirsch Kessel ship.
There you go. Okay, so he knows more about it than the actual website does.
Oh, Hirsch Kessel.
Okay, so then that ship.
What's a Hirsch Kessel?
Hirsch Kessel's a shipyard.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see.
Can I own a shipyard? She's
a Delea class courier. Oh, this is like Old Republic stuff. These ships were at space 4,000 years before the Battle of Endor.
Okay.
Or not Battle of Yavin.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't really deal with a lot of these ships because they're so old.
You still have told me more about it than that.
He's like, it's old.
He's like, it's old. That's what I can tell you about it. By the way, here's all this other information. Right. I can't tell you much about it.
It's essentially a man of war ship.
Yeah. These ships were at space 4,000 years before the Battle of Yavin.
Okay.
And that's well outside of what I would do.
But
anything can be a flagship as long as it's carrying an admiral.
Okay. So while I'm in the midst of doing this, though, you have done other stuff as well.
He has let's bring up this because you made part of this with your friends. Accursed RPG. Accursed.
So this is Accursed.
Not a cursive RPG.
I've actually seen this.
You've seen this? Okay.
I've seen this somewhere.
Yeah. We, me, Ross Watson, and John Dunn, we released that at the end of 2013, and it takes place in in another land, in a fantasy land, and the countries within that land are totally not Russia, totally not Spain, totally not Israel, totally not Egypt. It's been a while since I looked inside that book.
Totally not means they
totally not Germany, and totally not Scotland.
So they are not these.
They are totally not those countries.
Oh look, it looks like Germany. No,
and totally not Russia was one of the countries that I wrote because I'm a huge.
They're not really called Totally Not Russia.
No. Totally not Russia is Steppengrad, and I'm a huge Russian history fan. I'm a huge student of Russian history, so Steppengrad was one of my countries. And so basically, the thing behind Accursed is the country exists on the far western coast, or it's part of a continent. It's on the far western coast of a continent, and there's a mountain range that separates them from the rest of the continent. And an uncounted number of years ago, a whole bunch of witches came over the mountain and destroyed everything and took everything over. And the Accursed, what you play in the game is an Accursed. You play a monster. So you play a golem, which is like a Frankenstein's monster.
Okay.
Or you play a werewolf. Or you play a what else is in there? The
What's
mongrel
this guy?
man. He's a golem.
Oh, that's a golem?
Yeah, look at him. He's Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah, he's
right?
huge. He's a big
Oh
buff
yeah,
guy.
he's Frankenstein looking.
Frankenstein's monster. But yeah.
Monster. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so you play like classic movie monsters, and you have a witch mark. You're branded with this witch mark when you're made into a monster, right? And part of the thing in the game is you can either accept your powers with your witch mark, or you can deny them. And if you accept your powers, you get stronger and stronger and stronger, and you become less and less human.
Okay.
Until you become just a monster. Mummies, you can play a mummy. Mummies are one of my faves.
So you so in like the traditional like horror stories, you play the bad guys kind of.
But those guys were the bad guys until the Witch War ended, and then they were all cast loose because the witches didn't need them anymore.
So they were just like pawns. They were
normal people who were turned into these things, and then once the witches won, So it's sort of a little
Baba
post-apocalyptic.
Yaga.
I love the look
Yeah,
of
Baba
this
Yaga. Baba Yaga. I wrote Baba Yaga. She's awesome. She's one of the witches.
Now they're still alive. The witches.
Maybe. Some of them are. Some of them are still like Baba Yaga is still in charge of Steppengrad, but Steppengrad is turning her into something else because the land itself is powerful, and she didn't realize that
when she got into it.
Yeah. So, and the people of Steppengrad are called Graniki.
The Chimera.
Chimera. Yeah. She makes the Mongrelmen, or they're not called Mongrelmen. They're called something else. But they're all stitched together from different animal parts.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh, the one I saw that was a snake. It was like there was a guy that looked like a snake face. That
Yeah.
Yeah. They look cool.
So yeah, Accursed's based on the Savage Rules
Crown.
rule set. Yeah, the Crown.
So these witches are like the gods, would you say?
They're I would say they're more like aliens. They're like super powerful creatures. We don't really go into it. They can be whatever you want. You can sort of make them whatever you want.
Like open interpretation.
Yeah, nobody really knows what they are. Nobody really knows where they came from. But they came from over the mountain, and they laid waste to Morden, which is the this part of the world. Dark Queen. Yeah.
Why did they do that?
For power. Because they could.
Okay.
But
so then they
the Grand Coven. There were a whole bunch of witches in the Grand Coven,
okay.
and they needed more people and more power, and so they came across the mountains and they laid waste to Morden. And
is she the nice witch?
No, there's no nice witches. But they're
Lucas opens it to a pretty witch and goes, "Is she nice?"
They're essentially so alien. Nobody knows if they were human at one point. Nobody knows really where they came from.
I'd like to think she's human.
Is it like the Galadriel when she's almost taking the ring from Frodo, where she's just like this massive dark?
The Jinn is cool.
She's bad news.
Nah, she looks like it.
Yeah, there's no good witches, guys.
It's like Jasmine from Aladdin.
So they come over the mountain and they lay waste and they take what they want and then they leave.
No, they occupy.
They occupy.
These witches are really actually pretty cool because there's something familiar about them.
Yeah.
Like the Jinn, obviously, is a genie type-based one.
Phenomenal cosmic power.
Yeah, that's pretty much what they are.
And then you have Gorgon, who is Medusa.
Yeah.
So no, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's a fun game. It's a really fun game.
I like the look of the text and I love the pictures and the artwork in it.
We had some fantastic lists on this project, man.
The Morgan. I love how their name is the something. They're like a...
Is she drawn from
an idea more
King
than they
Arthur?
are?
Yeah, I was about to say.
She's not. She's more like Celtic mythology.
Okay.
It's very cool, man. So you and your buddies made this up.
Yep. Yeah, that's so the IP, the whole idea behind Accursed was Ross Watson's idea. John owns Melior Via. They're the publishing company who published it, and I am credited as the head writer. But each of us wrote essentially a third of the game.
Oh, look at Jason Marker right there.
And then we had we kickstarted that, and then we had a bunch of stretch goals. One of the stretch goals was we had a source book written by Chris Avallone. Do you guys know who Chris Avallone is?
Not that
you ever play any of the Neverwinter Nights games?
Never. Yeah.
He does.
You ever play Fallout New Vegas?
Yes.
Wait,
Avallone wrote New Vegas.
No way. It's so the story's good.
I know, right?
Will's over here just like, I know all that stuff.
I know,
he's a big Neverwinter fan.
And Ross was like a friend of Chris's, and that's how he got Chris involved in it. And I'm like, oh my god, Chris Avallone, man, I'm a huge fan of your work, man. I put hundreds of hours into New Vegas, right? I just love New Vegas, and he's like the raddest dude. And he's like, oh man, thanks. I'm really excited. Man, Accursed is so cool, and he paid us a lot of compliments. He's just a rad guy. Awesome. He's a cool dude.
Dude, storytellers. This is awesome.
Hey, tell me about the MC-80A Star Cruiser.
Oh my god, come on now.
Oh, that's so the MC-80. Oh, the MC-80 is Home One. Well, Home One was an MC-80. It's a Mon Calamari ship.
He's not looking at this at all. This is all from his brain.
Yeah, the MC-80 is the big. Is that also the Liberty class? I'm trying to remember. MC-80 Liberty. That was a style. I forget. There's like a bunch of different kinds of MC-80. I want to say it's like the Liberty and the Home One and a couple other ones. But that's the big ship that Admiral Akbar was in. That was Admiral Akbar's flagship in Jedi.
Oh.
So the one that they're like really long and they're like super swoopy and round and they look kind of organic. That's what the MC-80 is.
Okay.
And then there's like the MC-60 and the MC-40, which are smaller. Smaller versions.
They have tentacles, are you saying?
No. They're really like long and bulb. They have like a lot of
the bulbous things, right? I've seen them.
I'm sorry.
Tentacles. No, it's the MC-80 was Admiral Akbar's flagship.
I know what you're talking about. It has like these little bubbles that come out of it, like these bumps.
The hull is very organic, very round.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted an example of him just pulling out random esoteric knowledge from his brain about this.
Yeah.
If Disney approached you for the rest of their movies to be a consultant, would you do it?
They're not gonna. They're not.
But what if But what if they do? Would you?
I mean, yeah, but
There
nobody's
you
gonna
guys.
ask me.
Yeah, there you go.
Disney, and we know you watch this show. So
Obviously, they scour
it's this
everything.
camera, I'm sorry.
They scour
Disney,
everything.
We know you watch this show. So this is the guy you want to do your future specials. Because we need to get past the Millennium Falcon for
Nobody important cares about my opinion on spaceships.
You never know. I worked for Disney. I was an intern there, so they might listen to me.
Sorry, now I want to get back to Accursed because it really is cool.
Yeah, sure, let's talk about Accursed
Is this the entire book they need to play the game? Like
That's
the Game Master and
you need to play this game.
Okay.
This is a setting for Savage Worlds.
Okay.
So to play this game, you need the Savage Worlds core rulebook.
Okay.
What's Savage Worlds?
Savage Worlds is a game setting designed by Pinnacle Entertainment.
Okay.
Did you guys ever play Deadlands?
No.
Oh man,
Sorry, I need to play more.
I've only played Pathfinder.
You guys were born in the '90s too, probably. So.
No. No, 81.
30. Yeah, I'm about to say.
Being facetious. But no, Savage Worlds is a really cool game system, and
These games you need to have friends for, and that's where I messed up.
We have friends that have all the same
Get some friends.
schedule.
But yes, you need the Savage Worlds core rulebook and the Savage Worlds horror companion to play this game.
Okay.
And
I've heard of Savage Worlds.
They're not super expensive books anyway, and if you're going to get into Savage Worlds, you should have them on your bookshelf anyway. So
Cool.
yeah, I would definitely go for the Domfear. That's one of the
Domfear.
That's one of the playable monsters. So you can play a Domfear.
What is she? She's
She's
a
a half-
vampire?
She's a half vampire.
Yeah.
Domfear or half vampire.
And what if she gives into her darkness? She goes like full
She
vamp.
just turns into a she just turns into a.
Now we talked about what happens if they give into their monsterness, for lack of a better word. They
What if I
become
don't
a
want
monster.
to?
What if they don't?
You can just not upgrade your powers, and you can keep your powers and you can deny that aspect of yourself, and essentially you can transcend, and you can regain your humanity.
Is that
When
a
you
big
lose
goal? Is that a big goal in the game?
It can be.
What if you
want
lose
to,
all your powers then? Then you're just like...
Then you just become a human again.
You're a farmer.
But this is a curse, man. You are cursed.
You're
you are
accursed?
You are the accursed, right? You've been taken from your home and your family, and you've been dipped in a vat and turned into a monster. And you suffer constant pain and psychological damage. Oh, the Ophidians.
The Ophidians
are
look awesome.
They're rad. They're snake men.
Oh, that's what I was talking about.
Yeah, the Ophidians. The Ophidians are the children of the Gorgon. They're pretty rad. I want to say the Ophidians were designed by backers for the Kickstarter.
Really?
So let's talk about your
That's
Kickstarter.
awesome.
When did you Kickstart for this?
We kickstarted this around Halloween 2013.
And then you did 3 months probably, like most people do.
We did a month.
A month. What was your goal?
10 grand?
And you raised it?
Yeah, we exceeded it. I think we raised 20 grand for this.
Bitchin'.
Very cool.
That's awesome.
I think. I don't remember.
Do you have any... I know Will's going to be looking at this because he's working on his own little game. Do you have any advice for game makers, role-playing, anything in the game world? If you're going to be kickstarting, how do you approach it the proper way?
I was not heavily involved in the Kickstarter because that was sort of John's wheelhouse.
Okay.
Because he's our publisher and he knows way more about it than I do. But just from this experience, I can tell you, do not overpromise with stretch goals.
Okay.
Do not do it. This is a Kickstarter is a business proposition, right? This isn't something fun. People are giving you money to do a thing, and you got to make sure that you're using that money correctly, that it's going into the project, and you are not making more work for yourself than you are getting money for.
Okay.
Right? Because if you promise the world with your stretch goals, you got to make sure the money's covering that because you're going to end up working for free.
Okay.
And this is not show friends. This is show business.
Absolutely. Very cool.
I think I want to be a Revenant.
Revenants are rad.
Yeah.
The Revenants are the Crow.
Yeah, pretty
Think
much.
about the Crow.
Like undead, dead, kind of.
They're
like,
dead people that come
dead
back
people that
to
come
get
back.
revenge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're pretty bitchin'. So I'm strictly by looking at the pictures. I'm like, he looks
Where can we
cool.
go to find more on this book or to buy this book?
please.
Oh.
All right, so you can check out our website at accursedrpg.com.
Okay.
And all the Accursed books are sold through DriveThruRPG.
Okay.
So you can get it as PDF. You can get this is a print-on-demand book, so you can get it done print-on-demand. You can get it in hardcover or softcover. Just check it out on DriveThruRPG. Accursed.
What gameplay system does this use?
Savage Lands.
Savage Worlds.
yeah.
Okay.
And so you will need the Savage Worlds core rulebook and the Savage Worlds horror companion.
Cool.
Very cool.
Oh man, sorry, I'm very excited about it. Now, you're currently developing a game now.
I am.
Right now.
My
Tell us
own
more about
thing.
that.
Okay, so I'm currently working on a game called The Thin Blue Line.
Okay.
The full name is The Thin Blue Line: A Detroit Police Story.
Okay, so then it's not a Thin Blue Line pregnancy test. Because that's what my mind is limited.
Why?
Yeah, the
Conrad?
Thin Blue Line. The game is a modern horror game set here in Detroit, and
Awesome.
it's basically the Hill Street Blues meets the X-Files.
Okay.
So what the characters play are police officers in the Detroit Police Department who are either psychics or have had run-ins with the paranormal.
Okay, I want to play this.
And they have all been shuffled into a precinct house in Corktown, which is the Irish neighborhood in Detroit.
Yes. We know.
Oldest neighborhood, too.
Pardon?
Oldest neighborhood.
It's the oldest neighborhood in Detroit. It's one of the oldest extant neighborhood in Detroit.
Yes.
Yeah. And they're all sort of shuffled there, and the other precincts in the city see Corktown as where losers and washouts and screw-ups are sent.
Are they in the train station?
No, they're in another building.
Okay.
They're actually, I want to say it's the old 8th Precinct building that's up on Rose Park and Grand River. It looks like a castle. I've actually repurposed it for...
Yeah, I know.
Will,
using
you
that-
know what I'm talking about? The castle on Grand River that I showed
I'm
you?
using that building, but it's in Corktown, and that's the precinct.
The guy
house.
bought that? I know that. The
Oh,
guy-
yeah.
The guy
he's
bought
going
that.
to turn it into apartments or something, right?
He just lives in it now, I think.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Thin Blue Line, these psychic cops have to, their mission, and this precinct has been around for a while, their mission is to keep the paranormal activity in the city under wraps. They keep it under wraps, contained, and out of sight of the public.
Okay.
In the game, there's recently been, within the last 10 years, a massive upswing in paranormal activity, and it's spilling out into public where people are seeing it.
Yeah.
And so the Corktown precinct, so Detroit police in general is understaffed, underfunded.
Yeah, that's about right.
Corktown precinct is the most understaffed and underfunded precinct in the Detroit Police Department, right? And so they're working triple overtime, trying to keep this under wraps.
But nobody knows about these guys. They're
Nobody
totally
knows,
secret.
Nobody knows that they're psychics. They're just screw-ups and washouts, and they're sent to Corktown, and that's...
Get
that's
them out of the way, maybe to punish them.
Right, yeah. And so, a saying within the DPD is, watch out, rookie, or you're going to end up in Corktown.
Ah.
Watch your step, or you're going to get sent to Corktown. Because that's where screw-ups go. And so all the precincts, but the thing is, Corktown has talent scouts in all the other precincts. And they'll find other cops, other officers or EMTs or firefighters or first responders or even like private security
that are
guards
gifted.
that are gifted.
Okay.
And the talent scouts will get them shuffled into Corktown.
That's cool.
And then but not all the cops at Corktown are psychic. Some of them have just had real bad run-ins with the paranormal and have seen things that they can't unsee. And they're sent to Corktown. And so you can either play a psychic or you can play a non-psychic, and the non-psychics have a bunch of good bonuses for being non-psychic. They're basically walls of will.
How much research did you do on Detroit for this?
A ton. Dude, Detroit is... Okay, so I'm a transplant. I'm not originally from Michigan. I'm not originally from Detroit. I moved here because my wife's from Ann Arbor, so we moved here.
Okay.
And Detroit's the weirdest place I've ever lived. I've lived in Rust Belt cities all around, the Midwest. Detroit's the weirdest place I've ever lived. And a lot of my research, one of the first things that I learned was, the big mound complexes. They talk about the mound builders. They're sort of like a lost Native American culture from. They think that they built them around like 1200 to 1500. Nobody really knows who they were, right?
Yeah.
There was a massive mound complex along the Detroit River.
Yep.
And when the Frenchmen showed up, when Cadillac showed up, they basically dug all those mounds up, tossed the bones into the river, and built a city on top of it.
Yeah.
Good job. So the city's built on an Indian burial mound.
Yes, it is.
Right? And a lot of so you guys know who Antoine Cadillac was. Antoine Cadillac's the founder of Detroit.
Yep.
He was a charlatan, right?
Yes.
He was a liar and a criminal.
Well, everybody was back in
He
the
was
day, but
such a crook. He made up his title. He gave himself a military commission. He was already like a minor officer in the French army. He gave himself made himself a colonel. Made up his lineage, made up his nobility. The Cadillac automobile symbol is his crest, right? His coat of arms, made up. Doesn't mean anything. Doesn't mean anything in the College of Heralds because Cadillac made it up. Left France, came over here to New France, and was like, I'm Colonel Baron de la Mothe Cadillac, and I'm here to do this. And they're like,
It's a smart guy.
okay, yeah.
They're like, sure thing, Baron.
So he's a con man.
He's a con man.
It was a con man, I guess.
He was put in charge of. Well, he was sent here to sort of secure the Strait, because that's what Detroit means.
Yeah, it means
the
strait in French.
right? He was here to. He built Fort Pontchartrain, and then he set to robbing and extorting money from everybody he could get his hands on. He sold whiskey and rum to the Indians and got them hooked and stole money from them.
The original Detroit hustler.
He was such a crook. He was so crooked. The king, King Louis, recalled him and sent him to the Louisiana Territory to be the governor of Louisiana Territory, which is in the middle of a swamp and nobody wanted. So he was sent to Mobile, Mobile, Alabama, and that was the head of the Louisiana Territory. And he was there. He was so crooked as the governor of the Louisiana Territory, the king just recalled him. No, you're done, and brought him back to France. And he spent a little time in jail.
a little bit.
A little time in jail.
Just a little.
Yeah, that was his thing.
That's cool.
It's hysterical. He's such a crook.
How much of that history goes into the Thin Blue Line?
I have to ask, do you have the Nyan Rouge?
Nain Rouge?
Yes!
Hey, did you guys hear about the latest sighting of La Nain Rouge?
No. Okay, so we have to explain this because our audience is all over the country.
All right, guys.
Yeah. So the Nyan Rouge is...
La Nain Rouge is an ancient Norman house spirit, and he's the Red Dwarf, right?
Which is what Nain Rouge means.
La Nain Rouge means the Red Dwarf.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of different stories about how he got involved with Antoine Cadillac. The way I portray it is, in France, Antoine Cadillac offended this spirit. And this spirit got so mad, he's like, I'm going to destroy this guy. And La Nain Rouge destroyed him.
Followed him to the New World.
Followed him to the New World. And then when Cadillac was sent to Louisiana, he decided to stay because there's a lot of death and violence and bad luck that happens here.
Because it's Detroit!
I want to stay here at Fort Pontchartrain.
So there's all these theories about whether or not the Nain Rouge is a harbinger of bad stuff. He's supposed to be a protector of Detroit.
He's not, because he has shown up. He has shown up before every cataclysm.
Sightings is what we're talking about.
People have seen him before every cataclysm that has befallen Detroit. You guys know the whole city burned to the ground in 1805, right?
Yep.
Whole city. The only thing that was left was chimneys and a warehouse on the river. People saw La Nain Rouge right before that. There was a massive 100-year blizzard in 76. People saw him right before that.
I don't know about the blizzard.
Before the 12th Street riots, which is the big 67 riots.
Yeah.
He was seen before
that.
Right before that. He was seen right before the riots during World War II. He was seen right before the Civil War riots. He's seen every time some cataclysm happens in the city. And somebody saw him last summer.
He's seen as
doing what?
He's seen as a cloven, bent over little red thing, basically.
Yeah, he's a demon.
People
He looks like a
mistake him
demon.
as an old lady kind of sometimes.
Or a child.
But he's super quick and he runs all over the place. And then he's out of sight.
And he can climb too.
So, you guys remember when we had those 100-year floods last summer? A couple days in August? And everybody...
Yeah, here, dude, it was nuts.
Everybody's basements flooded. It was millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars in damage, and a bunch of people died.
75 over here in 9 Mile was underneath
Will
4
and
feet
I
of
went
water.
walking down 75 that night.
It was ridiculous, right? I can get the transcript because I do history tours for Detroit Bus Company, and one of our tour guides, her brother or cousin is a Detroit firefighter, and he has the 911 transcript of somebody calling and reporting a child stuck in a pumping station, a substation by the Ambassador Bridge, banging on pipes and trying to get out of this building. And Detroit Fire Department showed up, and there was nobody in that building, and that was the night before the rains came.
That's awesome.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So in Detroit, we have this big parade party that happens to...
La Nain Rouge Parade. My band plays that parade, yeah.
Yep.
To keep the Nyan Rouge sedated or
cast them out. Everybody wears masks because they don't want the Nyan Rouge to know who they are, because then he'll focus on them.
So everybody wears Nyan Rouge mask, right?
No, we just dress up in different costumes.
Just different costumes?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. So there's a lot of
fun. Yeah.
If you're not from Detroit and you've never been here, there's a lot of cool little city things that we do, like the Nyan Rouge.
Detroit is so full of these great ghost stories and these great, on the west side in the late 1800s, there's a story about sorry, I lost my track. The Springwells Massacre.
Okay.
Which was a series of mass killings where an entire family was wiped out. In the 50s, are you guys familiar with the Vulcan? It was the British Royal Air Force nuclear bomber. Big Delta Wing.
No.
Massive. Check it out. It's the Vulcan Delta Wing bomber. One crashed on the east side in Creekside in the 50s. Came out of the sky full throttle from 35,000 feet.
What's it doing here?
She had flown over and she was on a Goodwill tour, and she flew out of Goose Bay, and British electrics are the worst. British electronic systems are the worst. And she had just a cascade failure where all of her electrical systems failed.
And she crashed?
Boom! Right in that neighborhood. Huh?
Is it still
gone? I mean, all of the crewmen died. Nobody on the ground was killed, thankfully.
Okay.
Wow. But so I tell a ghost story about that in Thin Blue Line. I talk about there's because we had a real big with Prohibition, we had a massive organized crime syndicate. The Purple Gang. Mm-hmm. And they were all Russian Jews, and those dudes were so bad that Al Capone, right?
Yes.
The Purple Gang, they were such huge badasses that they had a deal with Al Capone, where Al Capone, they split Michigan down the middle, and Al Capone and his boys were not allowed east of that line.
Really?
Yeah.
And they can make that demand. And Al Capone was like, okay, I better listen to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so there's a great story about it's called the Miraflores Massacre, where it was the first use of the Thompson submachine gun in a mob killing.
Here in Detroit?
And one of the guns in that killing was used in the St. Valentine's Day Massacre.
Really?
And those weapons were bought at Detroit Hardware, which is still open in New Center on Woodward Avenue.
It's a cool place.
So
the center of crime, not New York, it's Detroit, guys.
So Detroit is such a great setting for this, because it's there's so many ghost stories, there's so many great stories about haunted Detroit, and so I've just spun those into real life. So there's real ghosts, right? And so the Corktown Precinct has to keep that all under wraps, and there's a reason why there's this upswing in paranormal activity, and that's sort of the background story of it, why everything's sort of unraveling in the city.
Yeah.
And
so we can play as cops in the game.
You play cops, or there's going to be where you could be an EMT or a firefighter.
So different professions,
right?
That either have
typically cops.
Yeah.
So you're you're going to have some kind of skill, but you're going to also have some kind of power too sometimes.
Yep.
So you could heal people, but you might be able to also use telekinesis.
Right. So we'll talk about the blog in a minute.
Okay.
I'm running a blog about the game, sort of doing media for it, and there's a bunch of different kinds of sort of categories of psychics that the parapsychologists at Corktown see, and one of them are the intuitives, and the intuitives are natural mechanics and natural technicians, but they have this kind of madness. They'll get scope locked or focused, tunnel vision on a certain
hyper
object.
focus.
Yeah, and they're a little weird, and but those guys will be like bomb squads, or they'll be armorers, and they'll build equipment, or you'll see Vitruvian psychics. And they're physical psychics. They can use their powers, their energies to heal or make themselves faster or jump higher or whatever.
That sounds amazing.
It'll burn your body out in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And then so sort of like in Accursed, we have this thing, we're working on this mechanic for the psychic powers. The psychic powers are going to drive you crazy. Flat out, your brain is going to melt and come out of your ears eventually. The way that happens, you're in control of that is your character. And so you can just accept to crank up your powers to 11 and develop more powers, but it's going to be worse and worse and worse, and eventually your soul is going to
give out. Yeah.
Your brain is going to burn out. Your body will still be alive, but you're going to be gone. You'll just be a husk.
Wow.
Or you can just say, okay, so I can jump and I can heal people, and I'm already crazy enough, and I'm just going to stay like that. And so you'll be able to develop your character that way.
And you can stave off the effects for
a little bit, but you're still going to go crazy. And so these cops they're in therapy, right? The precinct has regular psychologists and parapsychologists.
Can you be a parapsychologist and play one?
Probably. We're still working on all that, but yeah, probably.
Will's be like, I want to go full on Norman Bates.
it's going to be really rad. And it's within the Corktown precinct, there's going to be dudes that were in the bomb squad, dudes that were on the dive team, because we have an underwater dive team here in Detroit. That's fantastic. They find a lot of cannons and a lot of cars under the water.
Yeah.
Do you see that the War of 1812 cannons they pulled up last year?
No.
Yeah. They pulled up a couple of 6-pound cannons off of Fort Wayne.
Really?
Yeah. Just in the
Fort
water.
Wayne's cool.
Fort Wayne is rad, guys. You should.
I did a video thing of Fort Wayne, and they tell me about the ghost in the tunnel. Have you been in the ghost in the tunnel? That shit's real.
Is the ghost in the tunnel going to be in the Thin Blue Line?
Maybe.
The ghost
Fort Wayne sure is.
If you've been in Fort Wayne, if you go to the zombie apocalypse and get stuck in the city, go to Fort Wayne. Yeah. It's completely enclosed.
So that Belle Isle is, they have the Serpent of Belle Isle.
What? Wait a second. No, talk to me about this.
You guys have never heard the Serpent of Belle Isle?
No, because I go to Belle Isle almost every week.
Oh, yeah, so the story.
This is not happy for me.
The story of the Serpent of Belle Isle is 400 years ago, 300 or 400 years ago, there was a Catholic priest, a missionary priest named Hennepin, and he had a whole bunch of Coeur de Bois. Coeur de Bois were French mountain men. They were adventurers, trappers, and they were coming down the strait, and they were proselytizing, right? They're proselytizing and they're trying to convert the natives to Catholicism, and they're trying to make a little money on the side.
Yeah.
And they put in at Belle Isle. They came down the strait. They put in at Belle Isle, and they found a monument that was built a Manitou monument that was built by the people that lived around here. And because he was a zealous priest, they just smashed the crap out of it.
Okay.
And that's that really happened. They smashed the monument, spent the night, took off. So the myth of it is they smashed it up and they left, and then the Manitou called the people, and the people came over and rebuilt it, and then the Manitou summoned a massive sea serpent.
What's a Manitou?
A spirit.
Okay.
A powerful spirit. And it summoned this massive sea serpent that completely encircled the island. It's like a huge snake. Completely encircled the island.
I don't like this story.
And that was supposed to keep the white man off the island. And so that's the Serpent of Belle Isle.
I have so many jokes that I could make now.
And then the way in the game, what I did was when they smashed up the idol, every piece of stone that hit the ground turned into a venomous snake, and it killed Hennepin and his men. And then the Indians came and they threw their bodies in the river and they rebuilt the thing. And the snake came up, and so in the game, they keep having these outbreaks of venomous snakes on the island. That's Saga rattlers, right? Just because they're still there. Right?
I go hiking on that island. This is not great.
It's fantastic, right? But it's haunted, you know.
What about Zug Island?
I got Zug Island.
I'll say you got the noise.
I haven't dealt with the noise, but what I'm doing is the things keep coming out of the slag piles, coming across that navigation canal into Delray.
What about the tunnels?
The salt tunnels?
The salt mines. I got the salt mines in there. I got.
It sounds like such a cool game.
Okay, so do you need beta testers? Because I think
we all want to play this game.
If you guys want to play, dude, we will play some Thin Blue Line as soon as we get some rules set done up.
Yeah.
We're doing the rules.
So it's not based on
Savage.
Savage. Like, this is your own rule set.
It's Savage rules.
It's the Savage rules.
But we have to make the rules for the psychic powers and how you make your characters. And all that. But it's going to be again like Accursed. It's going to be you're going to need the Savage Worlds core rulebook and you're going to need the horror companion to play it.
The horror companion.
But yeah, it's going to be a lot of great stuff, and it's going to use. And I'm using a lot of. It's not Detroit. It's Detroit, guys. It's Detroit, right?
What's this mean?
It means sort of Detroit.
Sort of Detroit.
Totally not Detroit, right?
He took some liberties.
I took some creative liberties with it, you know, especially with the background.
So we have
and a lot of the
State
major,
Building?
a lot of the major power. Well,
but it's called the Vampire State Building.
Well, instead of the CompuWare building, there's another building there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and just stuff like that. So things like in the game, the Black Bottom Paradise Valley neighborhood is still there.
Really?
375 doesn't exist.
Paradise
in the
Valley is
game,
still there.
You know.
Okay.
Just like little changes I made. There's there's an abandoned mental hospital in Westland.
Yes.
It's I forget the name of it. But it was like one of the best hospitals in the world. Well, I moved it into the city on the west side, and I made it into the worst hospital in town, and I called it Imogen. I called it Imogen Hospital, and it's like super haunted, and it's where they send rookies on their first patrol. It's a hazing. Mm-hmm. It's like super haunted, and it's super full of gangbangers, and it's like super dangerous, and it's a shooting gallery in there, and that's where they send new Corktown rookies on their first patrol.
How much longer do we have to wait for this game? Because it sounds really cool.
We're gonna kickstart it in I think June or July. We're gonna kickstart it in the next couple months. Yeah, real soon, and we hope. Please don't hold me to this. We hope to have this book on sale by Halloween. Because when you want to play a modern horror game, it's on Halloween.
Absolutely.
Like I said, playtesters.
Well, if you need, we play test a lot of games.
Yeah, we play
if I can plug some of the media.
Go nuts! Actually,
absolutely.
So if you want to check out more about Thin Blue Line, check out thinbluelinerpg.com.
Cool.
Okay, that's where the blog is. I'm running Tuesdays and Thursdays. We're doing blog posts. Come June, end of this month, I'm going to do 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And we're going to talk more about the setting, we're going to talk more about the mechanics, we're going to talk more about being a cop in Detroit, we're going to talk more about history, stuff like that. And then we're going to kickstart it, like I said, and hopefully we're going to have it on sale. And we had some really cool Kickstarter stuff, some prizes going out for backers and everything.
Okay, cool.
And it's going to be really rad. It's going to be really rad.
So when you get ready to Kickstarter us, let us know.
Please.
Well, yeah.
So we can plug it again to all the fans.
We absolutely will.
Yeah, definitely check out thinbluelinerpg.com, and that's where all of your scary modern horror Detroit police stuff is going to be.
This is great.
Sounds really cool. Anything else that you want to plug? This is the plug moment.
Plug.
Can I plug something not?
Yeah, sure. Plug whatever you want.
All right, so I am in a 20-25 person punk rock brass band called the Detroit Party Marching Band.
Okay.
Wait a second. Yes, the crash band. They just crash up.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen you guys.
We do a music festival every year. Well, every year. Last year was our first year. We're doing it again this year.
That counts as every year.
It's in July. It's in Roosevelt Park in front of the train station, in front of Michigan Central.
Yeah.
Check crashdetroit.com. Check out the festival. I think we're going to have 10 or 12 bands this year.
The music festival there.
The music festival. So we're gonna have 10 or 12 brass bands. We're gonna have a fantastic bar tent again because we got a lot of some specialty mixed drinks given to us by 2 James Distillery. We got some beer from I think Batch Brewery gave us some beer, and Milking It out of Royal Oak gave us some barrels. We're gonna have a great bar tent. We're gonna have a bunch of food trucks. We're going to have just a lot of cool stuff. So
He's all about food trucks.
CrashDetroit.com. Check it out.
Have you talked to Slows or anything about there?
They help us out with something, I forget.
Okay, let me know. I know.
Phil's got us with something, I forget what though.
Okay.
But yeah, check us out in July. Come down and see some bands and have a good time.
I'm going to be there. July, you said?
It's in July, yeah. It's the middle of July.
Okay, great. Anything else?
That's it.
All right, Jason Maker, dude, thank you.
Marker.
Dang it, why do I keep doing that?
He did it finally.
Twice, man!
Why do I keep
There's
doing
an R
that?
in there.
I know.
Because you're not a constant professional like myself.
Yeah, okay, fine, take us out.
Hi, my name is Lucas.
No, that's the beginning. Take us
Okay,
out.
for Conrad, for Jason Marker, for myself, Lucas, and the rest of the VoxVii crew, we'll see you guys next week. We will be in Ohio, so we're going on a road trip with the crew to cover a war of 1812.
Reenactment.
It wasn't a reenactment, you're
Yes.
right, at Fort Meigs. So check it out. It should be cool if we can get the cameras running there. So, yeah. So for me and Conrad and Marker, we'll see you next week.
What episode is this?
9.
What
Season 3.
There you go. What's all of our contact info?
Oh, that's easy. 'Cause I'm the one that has to make it all.
Well, then say it.
TheRackShow.com is our Facebook. You can go to VoxVii.com, which is our company's website. You can check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and yeah, that's it.
How
Right?
can they find us there?
You just Google this shit. It's easy. Peace, guys.
That's gonna be fun to edit.
I've never in 3 seasons ever taken this out.
You know, who probably has really good ideas
Who?
on what our guest. Bet
Oh.
you money. He could probably
Oh,
tell you
I
what
don't
to
know
do
about
with
that,
that.
but-
Just saying.
Yeah, let's introduce him.
Yeah, absolutely. Tom Nardone.
Yep.
Yeah, there we go. I'm getting really good at saying names.
This is one of my favorites, Subtle Butt. I don't know
I
why
love
that
the
makes me
name.
laugh, because Subtle Butt.
Yeah.
It's just fun. The difference between our bulletproof vest and others is price. There's a lot of bulletproof vests are worn by police officers, and those vests are bought with public money. Yeah,
Do you feel safe now?
I do. Punch me. Harder.
that's quite the shot.
More harder.